You're not. You're not. You're not unmuted. You didn't unmute from your. Yeah, on your side, you're still muted.
Okay, there. Hey, okay, there. Now you can hear me.
It's not a good stream unless it's scuff. That's the way it works.
Right? Yeah, scuff for the scuff gods. It's always got to happen. Hey everybody, we're back. Another Beards of Light podcast. I'm here, Gibbles Destruct, with my great host, Kula. I don't know which direction I actually need to point.
Other
hey
way.
Valorant, how you doing? Today we got some stuff to talk about. We have some interesting stuff to talk about. So there's more.
Do you want to get the Final Fantasy stuff out of the way first, and then we can start jumping in our stuff?
We can get some Final Fantasy stuff out of the way, but right now I'm just going to go like a little top down what we're going to be talking about a little bit. We got There's always more budget cuts. There's more layoffs happening in the video game industry. It's a bad time right now. We got some Helldivers news. We got some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth information. We've got some kind of hot topics talking about AI, talking about a streamer who is getting a little hot water of like, did they fake a run or not? Emulators are getting in some hot water right now, and there's some new Final Fantasy 14 stuff, which Kula is going to show for a second.
Yeah, so we got the new optional items for those who haven't seen those coming through. It's that new Crescent Moon Mount. Let me change the screen here so we can see it. Boop. This thing looks pretty cool, honestly. I've seen it in action a little bit. We had a couple people in Wraith stream today that had it, which I mean, it's really pretty, and this really flow like the skirt thing actually like flows and whatnot, so it looks kind of cool, and you get the little operate.
Yeah, you got a little operate, pal. Hey, and they're not taking anyone's seat away from them.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, it's a cute little mount. It's not terribly expensive in the line of account wide mounts, $24, so not too bad. The other one is the Final Fantasy 15 crossover event that's happening right now. This is a great chance for, if you haven't gotten your regalia yet, is a good time to take the time to do that. I think it's 150 MGP after you do the quest. So there's a quest line. It comes with a trial and a solo duty, and it gives you the 4-person mount. It's basically a free 4-person mount. For those who are having a hard time getting MGP, if you just do like your weekly fashion design, that's like 70 MGP right there. And then if you do your daily mini cac pots, those will get you pretty fast up to the 150 marker.
And then you got the Moogle tomes, and you got Wondrous Tales, which you can unsync and redo those, and that'll give you 50k.
Yeah, lots of options there. So no reason why between now and the end of the time period, which is March 13th, so you got a couple weeks. Well, a week, probably about a week from now. 10 days, 7 days, 11, 9 days, whatever the math is.
Mathin'?
So yeah, just mathin'. Yeah. I'm working with a head cold right now, which is like kicking my ass, but it's fine.
Street mathin'.
Yeah. So I guess we'll jump into. Do we want to talk about the blind run drama?
Oh yeah, we can talk about the blindfold run drama. Yeah, we'll kick it off with some drama. So everyone and their mother has been talking about this. I watched, I think, 6 different reaction videos about this. This is a drama that's been going on for like a week or two now. There's a streamer by the name of Queen Pwns a Lot. This is for Monster Hunter World. If you've been living under a rock and don't know what I'm talking about, there's a boss in Monster Hunter World called Alatreon. It's a very difficult boss. Some people can't even kill it on their own. She did a blind run. There's very few blind kills with against Alatreon, and none of them use the weapon that she used and the strategies she used. So most people are saying that it's fake. And her first run, the blindfold she used, you could like see light going through it when she showed it off. So everyone's like, that's fake. So there's a bunch of drama like, hey, no, you faked this. Asmongold reacted to it. I mean, they shared it to him, and like the people, her moderators tried to get him to see it so they could like boost it. And that's when everyone was just like saw it and it got attention, and they were like, that's fake. In his reaction video, he said, you want people to stop calling it fake? Do it again. Put some more constraints on it. So she covered up both her monitors with paper, and like taped paper up, and had a new blindfold that was recommended to her by one of the top blindfold speedrunners. He speedruns Sekiro. She had like coaches. One was the Alatreon record holder, and one of them was that Sekiro blindfold runner. Helping her try and figure out how to do it, right? That's all well and good. She beat it again under these new constraints. One of the problems is she didn't disclose that she had a third monitor off to the side that wasn't in the video. And a lot of other videos about debunking on how she did it started coming out, and you can see her like sitting like this while she's playing. So everyone's like, you're just looking through the gap right here, because no matter what, if you're wearing a blindfold, you can pretty much see through the nose slit area, and especially if you wear it loose. So she's just looking at her third monitor, which she doesn't cover up. She doesn't show it. She says that afterwards, her mods went on Asmongold's stream, and they had a conversation. The VOD is up on YouTube. It's an hour and 45-minute long VOD, because the mod came on his stream and had this whole like conversation with Asmon, I'm like trying to be like, no, I know she did it. I know for a fact. And like Asmon's like, were you in the room? And he's like, I've been in the room before when she's done it. A bunch of stuff like that. But she was trying not to disclose she had a third monitor, obviously, but because she'd never said anything like that. And then he originally was trying not to, and then he kind of gave up on that argument halfway through the whole conversation. It was like, oh no, on the third monitor, it's just chat. It's just the chat thing. And later on, someone proved that she had dragged OBS over there. That video actually came out today. Someone actually like proved that she dragged OBS over there. So it's a whole bag of worms. So essentially, she got caught cheating because she's using a blindfold you can see through. Then she got caught cheating using a third monitor, and there's been a ton. Carl Jops did a video in conjunction with two other like large like YouTubers like that get into video game drama. Asmon has done multiple reactions to it. My YouTube feed after I watched the Asmon video was like nothing but reactions to like the plethora of like the Carl Jobs video. The I can't remember the other guy's name. It doesn't. I guess it doesn't really matter right now. But yeah, it's Abisoft. That's the guy. But yeah, it's kind of funny just how much they're doubling down again, and they're like asking for like new constraints, and like it's causing like their fans to like hate Raid and stuff like that on like other like YouTubers and streamers who were calling her out on it.
Yeah.
But it's blown up over the past like couple days. I'm not sure when she did her second run.
It looks like Xenos made a thing on it. There was some more updates. I was just looking at some of the stuff that came through. Asmongold has a clip on it. But yeah, it's not cool to mess with these kind of like these kind of communities, right? Because like this is like a big, like for some communities this is like a big deal to do these big fights. You know,
she was a smaller streamer, and she got, well, like not smaller streamer, but she got not affiliate, but partner at least. So she's averaging like 75 to 100 views every stream, and was a Monster Hunter World streamer primarily. So she was already part of the community, and then like on it, her mod's exact wordings on a dare, on a fun thing, she did the blindfold run, and then they promoted it to Asmongold, and it blew up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really yeah, it's hard to like, it's hard to feel kind of like bad for her as a streamer when like she's kind of jumping into these like these pools of areas where she's not normally seen, and you know, and not doing it the right way, and then, you know, lying about her setup, and doesn't look good for sure.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me when I was watching it. It was like it was this transition from no, we have no there was no third monitor, to them just being like, oh, but the third monitor is just chat. Yeah. It was a really interesting like narrative shift that I watched when I listened to, because I was hiking for work at the time, and I just like listened to the moderator just like slowly shift his approach.
Yeah, it's not a good look for sure when you can't stand on your argument.
Yeah, there's a few things. So like one of the things that got it called out was blindfold speedrunners who blindfold run other games and have like thousands of runs, say there's no way. So specifically for her playthrough, you need to be, with the weapon she was using, you need to get headshots, so you have to head track the boss. There's other blind kills that don't have to get headshots, so all they have to do is just hit the enemy. Like dual blades and the charge blade are both two instances where you don't need to get headshots. They help, but you don't need them. Well, she did it with a great sword, and you need the headshots in order to get the kind of kill and the kind of kill time she did. But so she had this like crazy head tracking that was going on, and there's a lot of things that she was doing that like can't be explained by like listening. Like she did this like ledge roll off and attack, which you can't hear if you're on a ledge. So there's no audio cue for her to know that she was on a ledge for that attack.
Yeah.
As well as every speedrunner they're all saying it's like humanly impossible for someone to have camera control the way she did, because she was always centered without lock on, without using any lock on in game or anything like that. Was centering on the boss like without fail. Which every speedrunner,
everything doesn't add up.
Yeah, every speedrunner, especially every blindfold speedrunner was just like, no, that's not how it works. And it's like completely impossible.
Yeah, it just sets these community, like the problem, like I said, is that it sets these really cool communities back, because it calls to question a lot of these runners. Not that all of them are not. I'm not saying that's the right move. I'm just saying, like, you have one person who kind of ruins it for the greater population, because it's like, well, if this person just cheats, then how do we know for
it
sure
does.
that the
I feel like
others-
probably drives more people to Monster Hunter World, which was like has never really died out, but was like dwindling a lot since it's an old game at this point. It released like really early in the PS4 lifespan, and Iceborne released 2 years after that, and but obviously like I don't know if anyone else was like playing it before that, but then Asmongold got back into it, which then every single time he plays a game, it drives everyone to that game. Like my Twitch feed has just been Monster Hunter World, like up and down the whole board recently. But then like this drama on top of it, I think is probably going to drive more people to the game, which is really nice for.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for the gaming community. I just, I sometimes wish that games could just stand on their own legs and not require some big Twitch streamer or YouTuber to like move to them and then be like, oh, this game now exists again. It's like, it has existed. It's just a matter of finding it and watching it. But
yeah, like the WoW Exodus.
Yeah. Speaking of exoduses, 505 Studios has shut down 3 offices, their France, Germany, and Spain offices, cutting their workforce by almost 30%. The layoffs come in line with
yes.
Yeah, oof.
Big oof.
The layoff comes in line to prioritize high quality, long-standing, successful titles. So, Control is a big one from this studio. They also helped out with Ghost Runner and Ghost Runner 2 and Hellblade and No Man's Sky, and they did a lot of help with the Death Stranding team. But this is a big hit to 505 Studios, which is pretty reasonably sized company. But it looks like they are.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on their thing. This is they helped with Death Stranding, Ghost Runner. I've played Hawken Reborn, which is a smaller game.
A lot of big titles.
Yeah.
But they are prioritizing higher quality, long-standing, successful titles. They did reacquire the rights to Control. Oh no, Remedy reacquired the rights to Control from 505 Games. This is also the studio that the guy who runs Stardew Valley employed to do the Stardew Valley updates, and then ended up taking it back from them. So, I mean, lots of controversy there in the Stardew world.
Stardew, Terraria, Don't Starve, Payday.
Yeah, and he moved it to them because of their track record of doing good work on small indie games like this, and didn't like what they were doing, so he moved it back to him.
That is also an interesting thing that they've kept Stardew on here.
Well, they've done work on it, so they technically still is in their repertoire of work.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting.
It's interesting to see that they sold back Control back to Remedy, because Control was such a very successful game. And you would have thought that they would have tried to, jump on that bandwagon of doing stuff for it, but apparently not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you said like they're focusing on like larger sustainable games. Maybe they're just focusing on creating their own right now.
Maybe, definitely a possibility. Speaking of people who are creating, this was a little short. That was kind of a short story, but speaking of people who are creating things
Yeah.
and being shut down on, let's talk about the emulator, the Nintendo emulator.
Oh yeah, Yuzu. Yeah, so within a week, Nintendo won a full lawsuit, essentially,
That's crazy.
um, for against a I don't remember what the parent company is called, but they had a subdivision called Yuzu that ran an emulator, and the emulator's been going for quite a while now. And a week they a leak of the lawsuit against them for them to shut down their emulator that leak was about a week ago, and like just I think it was just yesterday it's like they Yuzu is shut down. They have completely shut down their emulator now. The lawsuit was pretty much based on the fact that people who leaked like the codes and like software for Tears of the Kingdom could then run that software on the Yuzu emulators. So they Nintendo came after them saying they were they were supporting piracy, and essentially like put all of the blame for like video game piracy on them, which is in my opinion like nutso, a little bit, especially because the Tears of the Kingdom, like the emulator leaked I think a week before Tears of the Kingdom even came out. Like that wasn't on Yuzu, that wasn't on them. That
Yeah.
that the entire code for Tears of the Kingdom was just out before the game was even released. In fact, you couldn't even play it on Yuzu until the day of release as well. But there's
2.4
a couple of
million?
things so I wanted to talk about just like emulators in general when it came to this a little bit, because like what's your opinion on emulators?
So I think there's a time period after a console is no longer in
Can't
circulation
hear if
that
you're talking.
emulate. Really? Hello? Test? Test? Can it? What the hell is going on? Hold on. Oh. Alright. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry. I've got my mentality to do press to talk, and whenever I do that it mutes my mic, but
Yeah, you're good.
so I think there's a time period where like after a console goes through its life cycle, right? It's that like a 10 or 15 or 20-year period can pass by where like emulation development of those consoles, those super old consoles where actively being able to get that product is pretty much impossible, becomes acceptable in my opinion. Because like you want to be able to enjoy like the things that you like. We were emulating Golden Sun for forever until they put it onto the NES or the Game Boy Advanced emulator for Switch. Like,
Yeah.
but those weren't available, right? You're not gonna be able to find a reasonably priced copy of Golden Sun and and be able to play it. But like, I don't know. Like these consoles are so old, and there's no way that the Nintendo corporations are making money off of them. That at that point, I think there's not really a need for them to go after these like Game Boy Advance emulators and stuff like that. Um, and they're so niche. Like some of the games are so niche that like because they're not bringing the whole catalog, right? You're bringing such a
Yeah.
small subset of the catalog to their emulator, because of like obvious reasons, like copyright reasons that they weren't able to get the copyright capability to be able to re-release them. But it's like like everybody's gonna have their favorite game that may not be able to be on the Switch or whatever emulator setup is out there. I agree that like newer consoles, like still active in circulation consoles, should be like a no-go. Like you shouldn't be touching those from an emulator perspective. But like I said, I think older emulation should be should be fine.
Yeah. I mean, so there's also like I mean, we don't know like in 20 years, right? I mean, Bloodborne never got ported to PC. Are we gonna have to be emulating Bloodborne if we want to play it again? Like, you don't
Right.
know what kind of games are gonna be available to be played, and what's gonna be kept alive, and how many games are actually dead now because nobody has a copy of it. They all were played by 8-year-olds, and the cartridges got like bent and can't be inserted into a Game Boy. And the Game Boy got random water damage in a flood, and there's no more Game Boys anymore, right? That like emulation keeps these games alive, and especially these games that just, yeah, like you said, like they're not making money off it anymore. The other side that I also want to talk about, and I think like always, pirating, wrong. If you're gonna play the game, buy the game. Obviously, if it's impossible to find the game, then that's a different,
Within
like,
a
whole
reasonable price frame,
whole
right?
basket,
Like
yeah.
I'm not for the like multiple $1,000 payouts of like, you know, like I want to play an old NES game and I have an NES, but I'm not
Oh,
going to
yeah.
spend
No,
like
I bought
$500 on a game that, you know, just because I have a console that
I
can play
bought
it.
about a yeah I bought about a year ago. I bought Final Fantasy 3 for the SNES, and we have it downstairs right
Yeah.
now. So I mean, like, within reason, I'll still buy them and stuff like that. But so the other side to this though is like it with Tears of the Kingdom. One of the biggest reasons why people emulated it is that the Switch sucks in
It does.
comparison to like things that are available to us, and it kind of sucked on launch in comparison to like other things in the area, and especially now that it's actually a pretty old console as well. Your Steam Deck, your Asus Ally, they all like completely trounce the Switch, and
With the
so
exception of
like,
being able to play those first party titles.
yeah, but so like, what's the like? How do you feel about the emulation? I mean, if you buy the game, can you like how do you feel
So
about
like,
emulating? I bought the physical. I have the cartridge, and then I ported that
right, but you
from
didn't
with a
buy
mod
the
from a modded Switch
hardware.
to the.
You didn't buy the hardware it was intended to be on, and it's still in
Well, you
cycle.
still
So
need
that's where
technically you
I'm.
still need a modded Switch in order to do it,
So then why not just play the game as is?
because you can play it better on the other thing.
I mean, maybe, but like that wasn't how it was intended to be played by the developer. If you're playing a game outside of its intended purpose,
Yeah, but then is that on the developer of the emulators for you doing that?
yeah, I mean, because they're the ones who built the code to allow you to be able to do it. They're at fault. I think this lawsuit is correct. I mean, that Yuzu is being charged 2.4 million. I mean, like the extent of this court case, if it only took a week to get here, is flabbergasting, right? I mean, like,
Well, I'm pretty sure they settled into just saying, here, we're just going to delete our entire
right.
thing and
Well, but I mean,
then
there's more to it
back
than
off.
that. So it's a joint filing. Tropic Haze has not only agreed to pay 2.4 million, but they said Yuzu, who's the primary designer of the design to circumvent and play Nintendo Switch games, the company agrees to permanently enjoin from the work on Yuzu, hosting Yuzu, distributing Yuzu code or features, hosting websites and social media to promote Yuzu, or doing anything else that circumvents Nintendo's current copyright protections, and that yuzu-emu.org domain will go back to being go to ownership to Nintendo. Like they will now own that domain.
Ooh.
Like there is a lot to this that only
They
happened in a
bitch
week.
slapped Yuzu. Oh my god.
Yeah, like they have you know, and it agrees to delete not only its copies of Yuzu but also all circumventing tools used for developing and or using Yuzu, such as the different softwares that they required in order to be able to pick to pick over the Switch, and they hand over any physical circumvented devices and modified Nintendo hardware to Nintendo, and they agree to not delete any other evidence that infringes on Nintendo IPs. So they literally bent Nintendo bent Yuzu over and just gave it to them, and just was
Yeah.
like they made it this isn't this is less like a slap on the wrist more than it's a make an example. Like they are absolutely making an example for any future potential emulator creators for the Switch in current development to just take them to town, just wipe them to the cleaners.
I mean,
And
they did that
Nintendo's been very well
recently.
known for doing this in other spaces, right?
Yeah, I mean, like what was the Gary Bowser incident like not too long ago,
Yeah.
right? That's his real name, by the way. If you didn't follow that guy, I think he just got out of prison like a couple years ago. That was the whole thing, or something like that, or he just went to prison.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of like people who use like the Pokemon name that they've gone after and said, "Hey, you can't do that."
No. So this guy was an emulator creator, just like Yuzu.
Yeah.
And his real legal name was Gary Bowser from birth. He didn't change it. That has nothing to do with why he was sued by Nintendo. It's just coincidence.
No, I know, but they've gone a little over the top with some of their lawsuits too, like where people design their usernames around Pokemon because they love Pokemon, and then Nintendo goes after them and it's just like, hey, you can't do that. Take that down, or cease and desist, or we'll take you to court.
I mean, my thing is like, yeah, you can silence this like the company from existing, but I think Nintendo is it's wishful thinking to think, yeah, setting this example here is gonna actually cause anything in the long run. There's other companies that are doing that. Well, one, I think part of the reason why Yuzu was so easy to go after is in their actual website they stated a way to port in games, like how you, like if you have a modded Switch, do this. They had directions, do this with your game in your Switch, and then you can like enter this code into the software this way into your whatever you're running Yuzu on, and then now you can play Tears of the Kingdom. Like they had that like listed on their website, which I think was a dumb mistake on their part. And opened them up for
statement on their Discord is such a PR, like huge PR statement.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they don't want to get hit with anything else.
Cannot continue to allow this to incur. Piracy was never our intention, really. Piracy was never the intention. That's questionable.
I mean, I'm pretty sure piracy wasn't their intention. It was just a happy additional extra on the side.
Yeah.
They ordered fries and they got sweet potato fries and then the waiter was like, "Oh shit, sorry. Here's your actual fries, and you get both of them now."
Yeah. But yeah, that simulator thing, like I said, I think like GBA, GBC, NES, SNES, those are, I think at this point kind of fine to hit over because they're so difficult to get. They're so like to get a good working one. Like I think when the cost greatly outweighs the enjoyment of something, within reason, right? Like if it's outside of major MSRP value, that's when I'm like, you know,
well, yeah, and if it's not being sold on the actual like a Switch store or anything like that, Nintendo store.
Yeah, nobody's making money off of it. You know.
Yeah.
That kind of a deal that I'm
like how Nintendo shut down their entire DS store not too long ago.
Yeah, and like that stuff's like you paid money for those games and now you can't play them. Like that's a real pain. That really sucks.
But you can't re-download them, yeah.
And you can't re-download them, yeah. So you had to have had them and hope that nothing happens to your DS. Like that. Yeah. That's a lot. There's a lot there that that plays into that, and I think that's going to become a big thing, right? That we're going to be playing into in the next number of years, where we're going to be like, hey, I bought this commodity in a digital format and now I can't get it. Like I can't get it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if any kind of legislation or class action lawsuit is going to come for these companies later down the road. That's going to be like the exact opposite slap in the face.
Yeah, I think at some point the gaming community has to come together and be like, hey, like if you're gonna go all digital, then these services have to remain up forever. Like you can't take them down because I bought this commodity, or you have to give me a way to move my commodity to a new program or new system. So I think you're gonna find that they're gonna be like, oh, like the next round of PlayStation, anything you bought on the PS5 store will be movable to the PS6. Like I think that's gonna be something you're gonna see, or like the Xbox store, or like whatever.
We just need Gen Z in Congress, and then that'll start happening.
Yeah, there'll be more regulation around that stuff. You know.
Yeah. No more. We can't have the like Zuckerberg conversations where they're like, hey, can do you know where my phone is? I don't know, like what
Yeah.
apps do you have on the phone? But like my phone, do you know where? Like, yeah, but I don't know what fucking apps you have on it, like what you've
Yeah.
enabled. But can you know?
We're in such a weird state with like politics and whatnot, and I don't want to get super political, but like my one of my biggest issues with politics right now is that like the current administrations of politics don't have any clue about the current technologies and what they're capable of, and being able to ask like meaningful questions, like the the woman who's upset that her 11-year-old was abused on Snapchat. Well, why was an 11-year-old on Snapchat? That's kind of the like, why are we not being upset with the parents? Like
it already has a legal thing that
that they can't, so they're circumventing the legal piece and getting it's just like
can barely work the microwave.
Boomers can barely work the, I love it. And then the other big one was like the argument of like the TikTok CEO is from Singapore, and they asked him 1,000,000 times if he worked for the Chinese Communist Party. It's like can you just like, can we stop wasting our time with questions like these and like move to like actual meaningful questions and like things that actually, like, the internet's now a utility. It needs to be treated like a utility. Like it should have privacy protections on it, and it currently doesn't, and it's a real pain in the neck. That being said, that's gonna change.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting lobbied against
until
by
we get absolutely
all the main things.
I don't know. Until we get lobbyists out of politics and force them to not use lobby dollars, then we're never going to get to that point.
Term limits on Congress. All right, that's
term
all
limits,
the political.
Yeah, term limits on Congress and taking lobby dollars out of it.
Yep, that's the end of politicalness. Yeah,
we'll stop being political.
How's Helldivers?
Man, there have been some updates on Helldivers. So if you guys have watched the previous few episodes, we've talked quite a bit about Helldivers. It's been a very, very successful game, and it is still doing very, very well in the space of concurrent players. They have been doing so much on this. So Helldivers 2 is a new game developed by PlayStation. It's a live service game. And so this is like, it's common for their live service games to come out for PC and for console. And so they brought it out for PC and console, and this development team, which is like a development team of like 50 or 100 or something like that. It's not a very huge development team. They built this crazy good game. If you've ever seen Starship Troopers, they basically channeled Starship Troopers into a video game, and like everybody's going nuts over it. It's crazy good.
It's a middle price game, $40.
Yeah, it's not crazy expensive.
Team shooter.
Yeah, it's a squadron shooter where you go onto planets and you're shooting bugs and robots and doing different like missions, and you're jumping down from a spaceship up above. It's super good. $40 for the game. You can pay $50 and get their season pass or whatever it is they're calling it, their like extra benefit thing. Yeah. But they've kind of gone in this like multi route, right? For those who don't want to take the time to like farm out the points, they can just get the thing for $10, or everything that you can get on the store can be purchased through the credits you get from playing the game itself. It's very good. They had an issue where they didn't anticipate as much success to this game as they got, and they ended up having to roll the servers down. They ended up giving like almost 500,000 player concurrent setups where they like it was that fast over the first week that they ended up having to roll it back to like, I think it was like 375 or 425 or something like that, where they were actively kicking people out who are AFK so that they could make room for people to come in. They've recently raised their allowability to 800,000, so they're at 800,000. And the game's doing very well. Like they've implemented these like AFK moments where like people who are sitting AFK for too long get kicked out, so that there's like a constant flow out and being able to allow people in. Very successful. The big, like, if you've been watching any Twitch streams, it's like their big thing is like enforcing democracy. Like that's the kind of the slogan piece to this game. But it's like The only thing, like I played like the first like the training piece. I'm waiting to play with Snuggles and Jay when I team up with them. So there'll probably be some streams of that. But it reminds me of like Starship Troopers 1, their like promo video. Like they're literally their opening is that like just like side by side that thing where it's just like it's this family friendly village, and then like all of a sudden the bug comes out and he attacks the family, and the guy's like no, and just like walks into like being a
For
part of the
Super Earth.
Helldivers. Yeah, the Super Earth, and yeah, it's so good.
Um,
But they've really leaned into that like Starship Trooper vibe, and it's so good. But they've been doing much better. The devs have been getting a lot more sleep, so that's kind of cool. It's nice when you let your developers sleep. Um, and
it's
but they've
currently
been able to make
sitting.
big patch updates and whatnot,
Yeah.
and it was pretty crazy. Like I said, this development team had no expectation that this was going to do nearly as well as it has done. And it's not a $70 game; it's a $40 game.
It's sitting second on Steam charts right now.
Yeah,
Just under your Counter Strike.
yeah, it's very good. We've been talking about it quite a bit because there's been like it's been very successful. Like the fact that it was very successful was something we were talking about, and then the fact that they were like, "Whoa, we can't handle this number of people coming through. Like we have to do something about this player flow." And so they've had to like kind of gear it back so they could fix some of the issues on the servers. And everyone's like, just buy more servers. And it's like that's just not how that works. Like you can't just buy more servers and hope that it's gonna fix the issue.
Why
And
not?
so they
Just throw money at it.
they've been slowly trying to fix that issue, but yeah, I have it. I'm gonna probably start playing it here after we finish all of our P12 reclears. It'll be added as a game in my rotation, so it is very good, and it'll be exciting to see.
I like to think of it as Starship Troopers, Halo ODST, and in the long run, Warhammer. Um,
Yeah,
and if you know Warhammer, the board game, not board game, but it's a tabletop war game where you're controlling different units. The whole community is one side of the board of the table, and there's one person on the dev side running the rest of the running the game on the enemy side and how things are going. So that's like kind of like how I like to think about it. But yeah, it's the all the memes, all the fun. It's a really like funny, especially if you get into it. If you really get into the for democracy, like bits of it,
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah.
Another game that's doing very well is the new Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Has come out. It's been doing very well. A lot of people are really enjoying it. My wife had started to play it and has been really enjoying it. But they've been having some issues with their performance mode that has kind of popped up in the news. Their performance mode has not been keeping a consistent 60 frames per second, which is what it's intended to do. The graphics look super slick. It looks so good, and very well done, very well built. But they're having some issues with performance mode. Square has come out and said that they're aware of it, and they are working to try to fix performance mode so that they can get the game to be more what they expect it to be. The graphics on performance mode are running at 4K, so it's affecting like it's almost like graphics mode and performance mode aren't any different. But they've been seeing some other shading issues. I've come to kind of expect that performance mode and graphics mode, like that graphics mode is going to be the mode for some PlayStations that are having issues with overheating, and it's still like we're having issues on our PlayStation 5 with it completely overheating everything. So it's a pretty intensive game. Even Remake was pretty intensive as well. So I can't say that it's just my PlayStation's been having issues and I probably need to go get it looked at. But yeah, it's been kind of a problem where some of these more intensive games have been kind of big attacks on PlayStations, and lots of people complaining that they're shutting down PlayStations for overheating. So I imagine there'll be some kind of a recall on the older PlayStations to kind of fix that issue in the future, hopefully, because it's becoming more and more prevalent that they might actually do something about it. But we'll see. But yeah, so this is they are aware of it and they are fixing it, but the game has gotten pretty high praise. I think the Metacritic on this was 92 on Metacritic and 93 on OpenCritic. So it's doing quite well, and its universal acclaim score was 9.0. So I mean, it's got a lot of people very happy with the release of it and what it's done, and how it's brought the story to light and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how it functions in the future, and anything that they put into it, any add-ons or anything like that they put into it in the future, or any updates. Yeah, a couple of other quick housekeeping things before we move too far into anything else. For those who missed it, the Elden Ring DLC is slated to come out in June. Shadow of the Erdtree, and the trailer for that looks amazing. Very excited. We'll probably do something with that on our streams when it comes out.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun to play.
I'll be playing it. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. We'll probably have Pedro and Enrique just kind of run through it with us.
Have you played Rebirth yet?
I haven't played Rebirth yet myself. I've been watching my wife play it.
Have you played the original game before?
I have played through the Midgard section of the original game. I haven't gotten through anything past it.
Okay. So apparently, and it's got kind of spoiled from me just because dumb freaking web
we live on the internet. Writers, spoils are kind of a thing,
blog writers can't title their things without trying to spoil things. But apparently they did something. I'm not going to do any spoilers at all, but I'm just going to say
hashtag no spoilers.
It's at the very end of the story for Rebirth right now too. So if you don't know the original story, and if you don't know, and even if you do know the original story, this is still spoilers because it's they changed something at the very end of the story for Rebirth, and they changed it in a weird way. And for me, it sounds kind of cool, but it started to cause some drama. So maybe there's probably going to be some people talking about it, some YouTube thumbnails, stuff like that. If you're trying to get to the Rebirth without any spoilers on that kind of thing, maybe block the hashtag for Rebirth on YouTube and stuff. Be a little try and if you don't mind, then you can look it up. Otherwise, I would try and put some blinders on.
Yeah.
But it's I think it's pretty interesting what they did, at least, and I think it's open to some something kind of cool for the third installment of this 7 remake, which I also hate that they're calling Rebirth a sequel, and that they called the last one a standalone game. It's not. It's you're remaking.
It's a continuation. Yeah.
You're remaking a game that was all one game in 3 separate parts, years apart. Rebirth is not a sequel to the last the 7 remake. It's all 7 remake. It's just installments years apart. But yeah. We had and then now we got through most of everything we wanted to talk about today, except one big discussion that might take us a little while to get through.
Yes.
Yeah. AI in video games.
What?
Where is it okay?
AI in video games?
AI in my video games?
No way. Get him out of here.
So I kind of want to say, so there's a where is it okay, where is it not okay?
Yeah, that's
I have
where
an example. I have an example of both of these, and then I want to throw it to you, and if you have an example of both these. So where is it okay? I'm gonna make everyone feel some cringe for their middle school selves for a second.
Oh my word!
Anyone remember Alfheim in Sword Art Online?
Yeah.
There's a whole thing about how, or like it was the end of season 2 when there's like the whole bit with like they have to go down and they get Excalibur or whatever.
Oh no, Valorant knows. Valorant knows.
But there's a whole thing about how the world was turned upside down because the game itself and the story was controlled by an AI, and it actively created more story regularly and put out new patch and like content regularly, and it ripped from different mythologies and different things and just remixed the story and pushed it out as story in the game of that game. And so I definitely feel like if you want a live service game, if you want an MMO, it's kind of a cheap way to constantly be having story pushed out. I don't know if that's going to be good story, but you can make it on side content. You could have constant side quests generated through AI, and it could keep a lot of people really interested in the game because there can be a constant flow of content, as well as it can create changes in areas. If as for a single player game, let's say, like say you're playing Red Dead,
the butter sword of truth, something
weird.
Yeah.
The butter sword of truth, exactly.
The butter sword of truth.
So say you're playing Baldur's Gate, say you're playing Red Dead, and you the AI can constantly can have like it can minimize the world when you're not in that area, so it's not rendering it, but it can keep like names and like events, and it can kind of play like a solo choose your own adventure by itself while you're not in that area, and then when you come back, the whole area is different, and it can create the world being alive. And there's some ways that this can be mismanaged, but there's some ways that can be really cool. Like you walk away from a town in Baldur's Gate or Red Dead, whatever, and you come back later, and all of a sudden the town is devastated, and sitting inside of one villager in the middle of the town is the butter sword of truth.
Bringing it back around.
And then you grab it, and then it says somebody has touched the beacon. But so that's I think a place where I think it's really cool.
Beacon.
The beacon.
The beacon bacon.
Little it's a Skyrim reference if you've never played Skyrim.
Oh yeah.
A new hand touches the beacon. Where is it not okay? There's an instance just recently that happened where it's not okay. The Actors Guild, they just went on strike, or the Writers Guild rather went on strike. The Actors Guild supported them. There's a whole thing about trying to make sure there's no like limit AI writing in movies. It included some video games, and without having like a whole meeting, the guild put in a thing allowing for video games to use AI voices of voice actors for like in perpetuity of games. So essentially, a voice actor goes in, makes a bunch of sounds into a mic. They then composite those sounds and can make that voice actor say anything they want now.
Which is already dangerous as it is. Just to be
and that was
clear.
And that
Deepfaking
was
is not an okay thing.
And now they without like actually holding like a whole meeting about it and like getting it like a few of the people that were in charge just kind of said, yep, that's okay, even though we were just fighting over not allowing AI to take over this stuff. But in the video games, that's cool. Yeah, you go ahead and do that.
So I'll land pretty similarly on that camp of that stuff being not okay. Yeah, and like what we're seeing now with some of that stuff, Valorant, is like actors are now creating like part of their contracts is that like should movies continue on through future sequels. So like Zelda Williams, Robin Williams' daughter, has ownership over all of his AI likeness in any future use in perpetuity. So like he basically is like, I don't really want to be using AI, but like if we do use me in AI, then like Zelda gets all the funds from that. Like that's how he kind of set it up before he died. So like there's stuff like that.
Could you imagine if Disney just took the original, like all the genie sounds that he did, and then just made a new Aladdin and just AI'd his voice in or his likeness? Yeah. Oh man, because if you don't know, Robin
he
Williams
was pretty ahead of like that moment when it happened.
He hated he vowed to never work with Disney again because of Aladdin.
And there's like with her having that ownership, she knows like the things that he would have been okay with and not okay with, right? Being his daughter, like that stuff is like Like they were very, very close. Like to the point of like I don't know if like you remember the 3DS commercials where they were in the 3DS commercials because her name is based on Zelda from Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
but anyways, to get back kind of on topic, AI
yeah.
for me is I'm in a weird camp, right? So like AI has been used in a lot of things for a lot of different reasons. So, one of the best ones I think comes to mind is the forever questing in The Witcher 3. That is a form of AI that we don't think about as AI, but it is AI. It artificially creates quests based upon things that you know in the game and you know stuff like that. I'm incredibly okay with that form of AI where like the game gives you more content, right? Like not to the extent that it uses like chat GPT services in order to be able to make new content, but like you know, saving a civilian and then that civilian remembering that you saved them. That is a form of AI, and that I'm 100% okay with. Where I draw the line is kind of in the like recreation of existing content, right? So the AI art and all and whatnot. The one that I was pulling up and talking about, I was going to talk about today is the Foam Star producer Kosuke Tani has admitted that there is 0.01% of the content inside of his game is AI generated art, and it has caused kind of a big stir. It's not a lot of art, but it is still like he's still admitting that there's AI generated art. And there was a thought that like Pal World had some AI generated art in it. Um, Steam took a big stance on this last year in June, and they have reportedly stated that anything that they can knowingly call out as AI generated art, they will not allow on their store. So I, you know, like I think that like use of these assets without full ownership of them is the correct, like blocking them is the correct avenue on that. Using AI in its current like code form of like being able to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to be able to make your NPCs smarter, that's I think is totally okay because it's not utilizing external sources of things that you don't own. So I think that's kind of the big like that's kind of where I wanted to talk about this stuff a little bit was like I think that the environment of AI has become so tainted in a way that people just don't understand what AI is. There's a great video, Alana Pierce or Char Alanazard. She has worked for IGN. She now works for can't remember what big development company she works for right now, but she streams quite a bit and she does a lot of YouTube videos. She did a YouTube video on this with basically the same stance of like AI art is not okay, and but the community is going to decide what is deemed to be okay and not, right? I mean that's how this works, right? If a game is successful and it uses AI art, it then tells other companies that they can use AI art that is acceptable. But I think in this case, I think using somebody else's work without their consent is wrong. We use it a little bit for D&D stuff, which is like, you know, like we're not making any kind of major $100 million worth of dollars off of it. It's very small base, local home stuff. We were utilizing it for the stream, which again doesn't make a crap ton of money at all. It's based upon, you know, on people subbing and whatnot. So it's there's all of that goes along with it as well. So it's yeah, it's a hot button subject right now because it's going to become more prevalent with writing. I've been seeing a lot of people doing like I'm going to write a kids book using AI and AI art and sell it on Amazon, make a bunch of money because it's, you know, because that's the easy thing to do, and some people have gotten success with that. I think that stuff is wrong. You know, I think you're not putting intention into your writing and the things that you're doing. I have a my sister-in-law is a teacher, and I have friends who are teachers that are seeing chat GPT text going into writing documents. So I think it's going to be something we're going to be dealing with for a really long time of like, you know, like how do you tell when somebody's being genuine about the things that they're writing and if it's them actually writing it. And so it's a big piece of today's society. It's something that we have to kind of, I think the first look that a lot of people saw was the Key and Peele President Obama deepfake, which is a form of AI. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty
I remember
fantastic.
doing that. Was it the Anger
Uh
translator, Luther?
no,
No.
he had a deepfake uh It wasn't a translator. It
Jordan Peele
was
uses AI President Obama in fake news PA in 2018.
yeah. So in 2018, he made this big like he made this like I bet you think that this is me, and it was like it wasn't actually him saying it. It was an entirely deep faked conversation where he used green screen and motion capture effects to be able to capture himself saying the words in his
Yeah.
Obama impersonation voice, and it looks very real. It looks very real,
Yeah, I'm
and
watching right
that's
now. I mean,
really
like,
really scary.
I can tell now just because I've been like, this is 6 years old. I've been
Right.
saturated in AI. I can tell this is fake.
And in a
But
lot
at the
of
same time,
places,
this is also
it's not
6 year old.
real.
Yeah, and a
In a
lot.
lot
Well,
of places,
also,
it's not real. In a lot of avenues, it's not real. And like in areas where they're using it for things like pornography and whatnot, it's considered revenge porn, and they're actually there's legal like things that they're doing for it. So it's
oh
like
yeah, well, yeah,
there's stuff that's like there has to be consent from the party that you're defaking, right? Like there's a lot of stuff to this that has to happen. That like, and again, this becomes another thing that like politics needs to step in and make like, hey, doing this is not okay, and these are the repercussions for doing this, and we're not at that point yet. But yeah, AI in general has blown up in its form that it is today through deepfakes, through AI art, through all this stuff has blown up very, very fast. ChatGPT kind of led the way with that. Google made a response. They've got Google Bard or whatever they're calling it now. They're calling it something else. They changed the name of it.
yeah,
But it's still the same thing. It's populating a response from things and changing it's Gemini. They're calling it Gemini.
yeah, yeah. Well,
But
there's the
it's
whole commercial. I don't know. I think this was like 6 years ago. I think it was James Dean and Marilyn Monroe, and I think it was like a Coke commercial where they just like completely took their likeness and stuff like that. But they had like there was like no recourse they had.
it's spelled Gemini. Gemini.
Yeah,
But so it's like the astrological symbol. Um but it's like there are some uses where I think this is kind of cool, right? Like help with code for developers is kind of cool. Where like you have to be smart about it. You can't put your sensitive information into it when you're asking for the code, and you have to be smart enough to know that the code is correct, right? You can't just take it at face value and just say, hey, this is right. Like it's definitely something that can be used in an engineering perspective and like being able to help do that kind of stuff. Where I think it's kind of cool as well is like building a packing list for going on a trip, right? It might help you figure out things that you may not have known to do or may not have known to to pack, because like you could be like, help me pack for a trip to Spain, and it could be like, did you bring a translation book, did you bring a this, did you bring a that? Like it could help you do kind of the things that you wouldn't quite think of. I've used ChatGPT for stuff like this. So if you exclamation point lurk, it's not on right now, my mix it up's not on, but through my mix it up through ChatGPT I had it create me like 50 different lurk commands based upon themes and things that I wanted. Like that stuff is cool. Like, but I'm not making like large dollars off of it, right? It's not like I'm like taking it, running with it, and being like, hey, make me $1 million off of this thing, or like, attempting to sell it on the other side. Like I'm using it for something fun to do in my stream. Or something interesting to be a part of my stream. I know we did it for Snuggles for his lurk commands. Um, I've thought about doing it for raid commands. Like, like there's a million different things you can do for it. In a D&D setting, we've used it for character generation, like the being able to generate a character profile for the art side of it. Again, this is like we're trying not to do. I tend to try to do more commissioned work for stuff that's stream based. So I'm paying somebody to do like an original piece, but for like you know behind closed doors kind of stuff, it works out really well. And then like item creation, so I use ChatGPT to create an item and then use Midjourney to create an image of that item based upon the description that ChatGPT gives me. So it's kind of cool for that kind of stuff, but I'm not
I
like, again,
use.
not developing it into games.
Oh,
And I'm not selling it as
yeah,
I'm saying it's my original art.
yeah, because I use Midjourney in my D&D campaign, which you're in.
Yep.
But I mean, like I don't broadcast mine. It's all home game. It's all just friends. it's not going out anywhere, and I literally just like create random enemies, and I create the look of a random magic item sometimes if I really want to like have it like hyper realistic instead of trying to hyper explain it or something like that.
Yep.
I'll AI generate it, but that's
But I mean, the
that's it.
story and the descriptions that you're giving to it are yours, right? You've created those characters.
Oh yeah,
You've
no,
created
yeah.
those descriptions. Like, it's not like it's not like you're pulling a description from something else and then creating something out of something that was somebody else created. So it's there's differences to that, right? I mean, like I think AI is kind of here to stay. A lot of companies are using it in their work for what they're doing and being able to, and being able to do that from an analytics standpoint. Do I think, in the long run, do I think it's going to affect jobs? Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
It's 100% going to affect jobs. It's just the way that nature moves forward with the technology. But I think in the wake of it, of people losing jobs, they're going to create jobs to be able to write this code. So like, I won't say where I work, but we use analytics in my work. So we have machine learning teams. So where somebody would normally be hired at a lower level to do like find something on an image, we're now using artificial intelligence and machine learning to do that. And so that cuts that person out, right? But then you have to have people who write the algorithms to build that code. So that's still a job created versus a job lost.
Section of your company, I don't actually know if your company specifically, but your industry is fighting for my job, actually, which is a kind of fun little tidbit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense,
right now it's utilized by us, but eventually it's something that could completely take it's not going to take it's going to take my specific job.
Your specific job out, right? It'll just help you. Well, in the long run, it should help you guys, right?
I'll eventually just transition how I my position, essentially.
It'll streamline the work that you're doing because we'll be able to report to you what needs to be done versus you running around and looking.
Yeah.
So, which in turn might lose jobs, right? Because if you can streamline how many people you need to meet each of the locations because you know where they're going, then you don't need as many people to be checking locations, right? So, I mean, it's a give and take, right? Like that stuff is, like I said, I think AI is going to be in life and in what we do on a regular basis. I don't see it as being something wholeheartedly bad, but I think that it can definitely be used in a negative connotation. Overall, is part of its wonderful charm.
Yeah.
So I think be responsible, right? Don't like knowingly try to do something deceptive. Try to do a workaround or whatever. I think that's kind of the key to today's episode is like between emulation and AI. There's definitely a lot of gray areas to legalities to all that stuff, and be responsible and know what you're getting yourself into. And
but what if I emulate a game that was completely made using AI?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about
that. Is stealing from a thief?
How old is the game? I'm just kidding.
Was it made on a Tuesday?
Yeah, was it made on a Tuesday?
During the summer solstice or not? I don't know.
What version of the AI were they using when they did it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's there'll be a lot of that. There'll be a lot of of things happening in like this Gemini thing. This thing is crazy. So like let me change screens here so I can kind of show a little bit of it. I'm not gonna do any kind of command prompts, but some of the stuff that they're like boasting that they can do, right? So it's like they've got an extension to Gemini that allows you to put it in your browser. And then when you do like Google Flights, you can ask it to pack accordingly based upon your trip, or like sightseeing places for a hotel that you're booking, or find something nearby on a Google Maps. So like this stuff has already been being utilized, right? Like Google Maps has already always been like what's nearby. Like that's all AI. That's all like artificial intelligence and machine learning stuff. Being able to do with workspaces where it's like summarize and find something quick to get answers on your own, or like help me solve a problem, or getting inspired, like that, like being able to use YouTube and whatnot. So it's definitely
it telling you how long your drive was is gonna be. That's all.
I could see use of this stuff for things like business tools of being like, well, how long did I spend on the road? Like, how many miles did I travel? Like, the trip I took for the last 5 days was business related. How many miles did I travel in the last 5 days? Like, that stuff is kind of like, that is technically artificial intelligence, machine learning, because it has to go through and figure that stuff out. But, like, it's cool to see that kind of stuff kind of coming to the front and being able to be utilized by everyday users versus having to buy like a $40 or $50 application to do it. It's definitely going to put companies on their toes for sure.
Oh yeah. Did you hear about that guy who got he got blasted on social media because he was doing some hate comments on some like random TikTok video of some girl getting cooked dinner by her dad, and then after she like was just like, what the heck are these like comments, and like they exchanged like some some emails where he was like really shitty to her, so she was just like, what the heck is all this shit, and then he sent her a cease and desist letter that was like all like it was all written, it was all misspelled or like that. So then she was just like, what is like, you like, it's all misspelled, blah blah, and then they sent her back freaking Chat GPT one.
Yeah, no, I've heard about stuff like that though. I think the big one that like kind of kicked off a lot of stuff for people was Google doing their AI calling. So that, I don't know if you heard about this, the Turing test that Google did way back like a couple of years ago with their Pixel phones. So they were utilizing like you could I don't want to say
I remember the AI screen. So like you could hit screen call screening, and an AI would.
But then they were gonna take it a step further to where like you could have like an AI secretary do things for you. So like instead of being like calling into your local salon to be able to schedule a meeting, you could ask Google to be like, hey, can you schedule me an appointment at the salon in the next week between this time and this time? And it would go and it would call, and it was very interesting how like some of it you could tell, like you'd be listening to it, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's definitely AI, like that's definitely text to speech. But some of it was like, wow, that's pretty impressive that they like scheduled it and then got it all scheduled up, and they were able to like take in like the information and gave the person's name, and then when it was done, the Google put the calendar event into their calendar so that they like knew what time the appointment was at. It was really cool.
And it knew your Google Calendar as well. So like if like they were like, oh yeah, I have Tuesday at 3 p.m., it would be like, oh no, Tuesday 3 p.m. was
work,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, like this AI stuff, again, not going away anytime soon. We're definitely going to be seeing more and more and more of it. And it'll be interesting to see with all of the AI stuff, like where the legal pieces go, and like what laws get put into place for protections for people, and how the video game industry, the movie industry, and the TV industries are affected by this AI generation stuff in the future, because it's only a matter of time before the general public gets tired of things coming from like general ordinary people when they can see what this AI stuff can do. So it's going to be, the market will definitely be swayed by whatever the consumer decides is appropriate.
It's going to be scary. It's going to be, people need to be on their toes and willing to jump jobs and learn on their feet for stuff.
So we definitely keep an eye out on it, and we'll see what happens in the future. So, but yeah, I think that'll wrap up today's episode. We threw a lot of good stuff today. Sorry about last week. We've been fighting illness in my house for the last couple of weeks. It's 3 children, and they all go to different schools. You're bound to get something pretty much every week. I don't think I've had a week this children. Week. Yeah, I don't really. I don't think I've had a week this week where I haven't had a child stay home in the last since January 1st. I haven't had a single week where a child has gone to school all day for the whole week and not had to come home because they had a fever or were sick about something. So it's been super fun. Something to think about when you have children. So
did you see the woman who put her son on blast for throwing up at school?
God dang! I'll talk about something else too that popped up in the news recently. It was really interesting. But I had a sinus infection a couple weeks ago, and when I went to the doctor for the sinus infection, he was he was like, oh yeah, and you're gonna have a cough for the next 2 months after the sinus infection clears up. And he's like, there's literally nothing we can do for it, so don't come into the urgent care. And I was like, wow. Like the fact that they were like, the guy was like, they come back and they keep wanting drugs and there's nothing we can do for it, and you just have to kind of deal. And I'm like, well, that sucks. Like that royally blows. So the next 2 months I'm gonna have to deal with like a light cough. So it's like, you know,
They're my drugs and I want them now.
they're my drugs and I want them now. But yeah, it's been yeah, big sucks. But no, the story that I saw the other day was did you hear about the teacher who let the kids battle with swords?
No, I've not heard about this.
Oh my god, it was so good. Okay, so I don't, it was some Renaissance like history teacher, and she was talking about, we're gonna go off the tangent for a hot second because this is a really interesting story. They were doing some kind of a Renaissance or whatever thing, so she brought actual like swords, like real swords, like sharp full swords, and like told the kids to duel. Like they were like she like handed swords to each kid, like 2-minute duels, and they were dueling, and the like kids were like okay. And then all of a sudden one of them got this wicked gash on her arm, like to the point that like doing regular everyday activity, like the nerve damage she received from getting gashed by this sword has like left her like crippled in one arm. So like tying her shoes and pulling up her pants, like it becomes like a chore now. It's like, it's very like, so she's suing the school. The teacher's been fired for unknown reasons. Like they didn't give like a specific reason, but the moment the girl got a gash, the teacher like stripped the swords from the kids, and they're like, this has been a huge mistake, I don't know what I was thinking. And then like it took them like 3 months to realize that it like to get something to happen where the teacher got fired. It was crazy.
So I'm watching a video on it from NBC Chicago, but apparently it was in it was
like from
apparently
like
in
4 months ago. Yeah, it was
apparently in New Mexico, and now it's in but there was a girl who got her wrist cut, and from the looks of it, it might have got, she has limited mobility now, so it might have gotten like a tendon, but they're suing, the parents are suing her, the teacher.
Yep.
And
the
somewhere
school
in this thing,
for allowing it to happen.
Yeah. And someone here, it wasn't like a history class, it was a chemistry class, according to NBC Chicago.
Yeah, something, it was something dumb. It was so dumb.
Oh my god, like what chemistry class? And do archery for a gym activity with the real bow and arrow, not sharp though. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, you
I
can
see
still hurt yourself with
Albuquerque.
a
I see it
bow.
as an Albuquerque school. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in New Mexico. It's I think a bow, I mean, like, especially if you're careful and you put things into perspective, it should be fine. Swords, okay, here's the other thing, is if you'd used foam core swords, which are what actual, if you don't know what HEMA is, it's essentially like people who do, I can't remember, the historical European martial arts is what HEMA stands for. It's people who do actual like full plate, like combat, like full armor combat and stuff like that. But most of the time when they're training, they just use foam core swords, because even if you use a dull sword that's for training purposes, you need to be fully armored for that shit, because you're still gonna hurt yourself. But yeah, it was a katana and a rapier, and they were real and like actually kind of sharp. I was watching a video of it, and one of the kids was like actually stabbing the other kid.
It happened in May of 2022, and they just filed the lawsuit last week. Like it's been a while. Let's see. The civil lawsuit states that the teacher set a 2-minute timer for each sword fight, and claims that once one student got injured, the teacher said, "I'm in trouble," and ordered all of her students to delete any videos that they had taken of the incident. 911 wasn't called for a half an hour after it happened, and paramedics did not arrive to the space until 30 minutes after that. The surgeon who did the procedure said that the cut was so deep that he could see a nick on the bone from the sword cut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
especially like
bad.
where it cut her like right on like her wrist. From I can see the
She may
image of it.
never regain full motion or strength in her right hand, and she is right-handed. Yeah, it's crazy.
God.
The parent in the response said, "If I'm a parent, I take my kid to school, and I think that the teachers are going to keep them safe. I don't think things like this are going to happen where my kids are then in danger." It's like,
Oh,
yeah, for sure,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. No, that is the dumbest thing like imaginable. Like I mean, like a scraped knee. Okay, yeah, that happens. If there's a wood shop, right? If they sign up for a wood shop and they have an injury in it, and like a
Yeah, but
shop
there are
class, one of
waivers
the
that they sign when they go to those
yeah,
classes and stuff like
one of
that.
the
So
STEM classes, if there's an injury there, yeah, not chemistry. I mean, even chemistry, like yeah, if like there was an injury that took place in chemistry because someone like when I was in chem class, I hurt myself because after I was trying to put a Bunsen burner away, but I hadn't. It was on for a while and it was still hot, and I accidentally touched one of like the clamps for like where the beaker went, and I burned myself.
yeah,
Like yeah, that's the kind of energy you get at chem class, and it's gonna be fine, right?
yeah.
Not a sword fight.
The name of the school is pretty cool too. It's Volcano Vista High School.
A blood volcano vista? What?
Yeah, no kidding. Tell me about it, dude. Those are that's so crazy. Like, man, the video coming out of this.
Oh yeah, I watched
Ugh.
all the kids fighting. Like you literally see the kid like
He's
stabbing
like
the other
trying to
one.
poke him. Like that's a real
Yeah.
sword. Jesus.
It is a real sword. It could actually injure him. Yeah. Like they're lucky only one person got injured. That's the thing. Oh man.
And the other kid's like, "What? What? Just doing what
What's
I'm
going on?
doing. What my teacher told me to do." But anyways, all right. Well, we'll wrap up today's episode. We're getting a little off on the rails, but it was an interesting story I heard about this week, so I wanted to bring it up. It's been a couple weeks, but we'll be back again next week with some whatever new news information. I'm gonna see if we can get Biggie on here next week, and we can do the raid conversation. So we'll Biggie. For those of you who don't know, Biggie Sweats is a pretty reasonably sized Twitch streamer. He also does some YouTube, and he raids in WoW. He raids in Guild Wars 2, and he raids in Final Fantasy. So we might have our raid discussion next week, where we
EU,
discuss
right?
like the pros and yeah, he is EU, but
Has he cleared P12?
He has not cleared P12 yet. They just started.
I wanted to argue with him about caloric.
They've done the pandemonium stuff. Yeah, that was an interesting conversation. If Eric's online, probably isn't. He's probably in bed by now. But
no, I mean
man, we saw some of the
might be able to get
Valorant.
Eric
If you want a
sometime.
good, if you want a good conversation piece to look at the EU strats for P12S for caloric specifically.
Yeah, caloric one.
They are wild.
Oh, and caloric 2. Well, caloric 2 is like it's kind of understandable, but it's like NA does caloric 2 just flat out better, and then caloric 1 it's arguable which is better. We both think NA does it better.
Yeah,
and I don't like their markers either, because there's no marker that shows where the tentacles slam.
No,
for
P1 was the same, right? Wasn't it like pretty much the same?
Yeah, P1.
With the exception of, like,
the same is
their tanks were on the outside versus their melees were on the inside, but everything else was the same.
Yeah.
Here's P2. This was the P2 strats that we were. I'm gonna paste them so they show up on both chats.
Yeah.
These are the P2 strats that we were given. Mine should show up on both because
yeah.
I'm a mod on yours. So, but here's the P2. So if anybody wants a good chuckle, not to chuckle at EU, but it's very different from NA, and I feel like NA is like I think the consensus we came to is like NA starts chaotic, but then is more streamlined, and the EU is more organized in the beginning, but then gets incredibly chaotic at the end.
Yeah, because they start with static positions, and then it just devolves as it goes on with each explosion. While NA starts
and you have
with
to like pay attention to multiple factors of what things could happen, and like it's not clean where it's just like we only brought it up. We were only brought up on it. Yeah, exactly. What rocket science is this? We were only brought up on it because we were doing it on Thursday, and Eric was like, "Why are you doing it that way?" We're like, "This is the NA way. Like, this is the way we do it because it's like it makes sense. Like, you make your rotations in such a way that they make sense." And he was like, "That's crazy. That doesn't even like the way we do it is way better." And I was like, "That's pretty questionable, honestly."
Well, I thought it was really funny when he said, "Why do Caloric 1 different than Caloric 2 when they're the same mechanic?" And both me and Cooler were like, "They are not
They're
the
not.
same mechanic.
They're so different. They're so different.
Like, oh yeah, they both have the fire and the winds, but that's it. That's the only thing they have similar.
That's literally the only difference. So, but yeah, if you want a good chuckle, for those in chat, you can take a look at those. If you've done P12 or know any of the P12 strats, it's pretty good chuckle for Caloric 1 and Caloric 2. I think the only difference in Caloric 2 is they utilize the middle, right? They loop the middle into it, versus like the middle just stands and does nothing on NA. Like whoever's in the middle gets a free pass to do nothing. I've wanted the middle because not being able to do my full burst really sucks. I'm not gonna lie. Like
I've had the middle twice for 2 clears. It's so good.
We're at pot moment, and like Warrior on the outside of the marker, I wiped the group like twice, like trying to do my full rotation, and it just doesn't work. I'm like, I always get excited when it's like, I think it's Fan is on that side. No, it's Coffee. Coffee's on that side. When Coffee gets it for first, I'm like, yes, I can do my full burst right now. Like I have time. But when it's like the middle or something like that, I have to hold off, and I can only do like half of my burst. It really sucks. It really affects my DPS. So anyways, but yeah, it's yeah. So anyways, in normal fashion, we do not raid on podcast nights because we're both streaming. So we will end tonight's stream, but we'll be back again next week. I will be back. I think we're both going to be back on tomorrow for more P12S clears. So you guys can jump in and join us for P12S clears tomorrow at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Yeah.
Depending on PF, I might actually go live again in a minute to try and get a mount.
Yeah. We only have a few more mounts to get. So, but anyways, have a great night, guys, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye.